With the sequel just around the corner, we're still playing the awesome first Dead Space. So we had loads of gushing fanboy questions for the series art director Ian Milham when we met him recently in London to talk about making the game. Tell us again how good it is, Ian, or, how you came up with the ideas and that.
Well, the idea for a horror game in space started, the Dead Space crew, when it was just a few of us in a room, was January of '06, so coming up on 5 years now. And we wanted to make something of our own. That was a big deal, and we knew how to make third-person shooters, and yet we didn't want to get stuck in the whole sci-fi swamp. There's so many good sci-fi games out there. We knew we wanted to set ourselves in space and be futuristic, but have a more mature setting and to stand out from the crowd. So the idea was to take some of the storytelling and atmosphere and horror of some of the popular Japanese survival horror games with good controls and sort of Western style polish and gameplay. So EA is a big, strong company, and they tend to make big games, and getting a little thing like Dead Space started and sort of greenlit was quite a long process. We spent fully a year developing it with whatever we had to get the idea across. So our key idea from the beginning was no documents, no papers, no whatever, that it was going to get approved as a real project that someone could feel, and it needed to be self-evidently great. The game needed to speak for itself because it was new, and there was a lot of other great titles out there, and why did we deserve people's money? And so we were very product focused and demo focused from the beginning, and we used whatever we could get our hands on, old builds of other engines, and whatever we could to get something playable fast and iterate on it until it was polished. And we had a year and a half before we eventually came out, we had 15 minutes of game that looked exactly like it does in the final game. We presented that to the bosses, and it worked because they were like, why? Oh my God, we totally have to make this now. So that's what we did. In general, we're trying to not look like a computer game, and we were very concerned about looking very Me Too. Also, games, especially sci-fi games, tend to look sort of blue and cool, and our game's very warm and different, and even space is warm and turbulent and dusty. Again, different how you normally see it. I reference the films of David Fincher a lot for basic color timing and sort of how his films look. They're not always the same color. It's not like it's the brown movie or the green movie, but they have a oily, sweaty sort of feeling to them that feels very specific to his stuff. Being a mature horror story like this, our audience is very sophisticated, and if they don't believe it, if it's not fundamentally believable, the whole thing just kind of falls apart, because you don't care if you die, if it's in this sort of pretend fantasy land. The moment that like a force field shows up, it's like, hey, it's Magic Town. Who cares what happens here anymore? So we're always very careful to give our made-up world the grounding of reality.
Thanks, Ian. If you haven't already, go watch our hands-on with Dead Space 2 in HD reviews and previews. Otherwise, just sit tight until the end of January rolls around.